Greetings, math fans. All right, so this is day 4 of probability. All right, and so today we're going to talk about Venn diagrams and tree diagrams. Okay, and you guys have probably seen both of these already, but it gets a little more complicated. But I'm going to tell you that if you watch this video, this is the information that's always going to be given to you. Always, always, always. On a quiz, on a test, you will always see this. Make sure you know it. And then it'll be the same questions that I ask you as well. Okay, so just make sure you know how to do these questions and you'll be good to go. But the key is to draw your Venn diagram accurately. And so let's get started here. Okay. The probability that you get an A plus in this test is 0.23. The probability that you get an A plus in this test and the final is 0.12. And then the probability that you get an A plus on at least one of these assessments is 0.41. Okay, so we need to draw a Venn diagram and kind of label everything. So let's kind of start out here. All right, and we're going to call this our test, and this is the final. All right, so I want you to understand the first statement here is that the probability that you get an A plus in this test is 0.23. Now, that encompasses the whole circle. Okay, so I'm going to actually shade this in. So this green will be the probability that you'll get an A plus on this test. Now, if it actually said on there the probability that you'll get an A just on this test, that would be everything except it wouldn't be that middle section then. Okay, but it doesn't say just in the test. It just says the probability that you get an A on the test. Okay, so understand that. So that is going to be, I'm going to put a little thing here. It's this is 0.23. Okay, the green is 0.23. All right, so again, that's important. If it said just in this test, that would be everything except, all that green except for that middle section of the green, because it wouldn't be part of the final. It would be only just the test, but it doesn't say that. So that's why I shaded in the whole thing. Okay. The next one says the probability that you will get an A plus on this test and the final is 0.12. So it's got to be on both. So both is going to be this spot right here. Okay, so I'll put a little color code here. That's going to be 0.12, and this is both. All right, and then it says the probability you get an A plus on at least one of these assessments. So it could be one or the other or both. So really, that encompasses the whole thing. This is 0.41 on all of it. Okay? So the goal here, math fans, is I want to figure out two different things. I want to figure out just the test and just the final. Okay, so the test only and the final only. So we're going to color code that a little bit different. We're going to do, we'll do the test only. And this is the test only right here. Okay, so it's not including that middle section, just the test. So let's figure that out. Do you guys agree? That's basically going to be the green part. So let me, again, I'm going to color code this a little bit. It's going to be, that's equal to the green, which is the big circle, minus the overlap, minus that red. Okay, so if I write that in there, it's going to be basically 0.23 minus 0.12, which is 0.11. And this is for the test only. Okay, that's what's in blue. All right, and then last one, we'll do, see if I have another color here. I'll do yellow. Okay, so the yellow is going to be, it's a little thick, but that's okay. The final only. Okay, so let me get back to this. So that is the final only. And that's going to be equal to what? Think about it. Isn't it 0.41 minus the whole green, right? Okay, because if you do minus 0.41 minus the circle, it's just going to leave you whatever is left in the yellow. So it's going to be 0.41, which is, here, I'll just write this. It's actually the whole thing is the black, right? So 0.41 minus the green. So I guess I can do this a little bit nicer here. Minus the green. Okay, which is 0.23. 0.23. Oh, that's pretty bold. Ooh. Let's go back to normal here. Okay, there we go. Okay, and if I do that, I get 0.18. All right, so that is the information that I need. It's all I need to answer all these questions, okay? So that's all you do. It's kind of have to figure out all the different little parts of that Venn diagram. All right, so we're going to have to go back and forth so we can see this on the screen here, but let's look at the question. Oh, we can actually look at this. Find the probability of not getting an A+ on either this test or the final. All right, so if I don't want to get an A+ on anything, do you guys agree that's just 1 minus 0.41? Because 1 is certain probability, but 1 minus, and to get anything, either the test, the final, or both, is 0.41. So this is going to be 1 minus 0.41, which is 0.59. Okay, so you'll have to know how to answer those type of questions, almost pretty much exactly the way they are here. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Find the probability of getting an A on the final, but not on this test. We already did that. Getting an A on the final, but not on this test. Isn't that the yellow? Okay, because it doesn't include the middle section. So that's actually pretty sweet. That's just this dude right here, which is 0.18. Okay, and then the last question I'm going to ask you, find the probability of getting an A on only one of the two assessments. Well, there's two ways to do that. Only one of the two is the blue, which is just that part of the test, or the yellow, right? So the blue plus the yellow, which is going to be 0.11, is the blue part, plus the yellow, which is 0.18, and that gives us 0.29. Okay, or you could have said so again, we're only getting one. You can't get both. So it's going to be 0.41 minus that red section in the middle. That would be the same thing too. 0.41 minus red, so 0.41 minus 0.12. 0.41 minus 0.12 gives us the exact same answer. Okay? That's important. Only one, which means either the test or the final, not both. So not that middle section. All right? That's pretty easy, right? So let's do the next one. It's just different data, but same example. Okay, so example 2. The probability we'll get a snow day in January is 0.31. The probability that we'll get a snow day in January and February is 0.16. So my Venn diagram is basically that, and these are snow days. So this is January and February. Okay. So let's do the probability of getting a snow day. Okay, probably getting a snow day in January is 0.31. So again, that's January is 0.31. It doesn't say just January, it says January. So we're going to make it a little bit thicker here now, just so you can easily see it. So it's January, so it's the whole thing. Okay, and that is going to be 0.31. Okay, so that's January, not just January, just January. So that's the whole thing. All right, the probability that you get a snow day in January and February, so both, is going to be 0.16. So it's this guy right here, right? So the red is going to be 0.16. And that's both. And then the probability you get a snow day in at least 1 of 2 months, which means both of these, is 0.38. Okay, that's all the information we need. So remember, guys, our goal is to get just January and just February. That's our goal is, but that's really easy. Okay, so let's do just January. So just January is this. It's just January. So put a little dot there. And do you guys agree it's the green minus the red? The green minus red is just that part of the January. So it's the green. So green minus the red. Okay, which is going to be 0.31 minus 0.16, which is 0.15. Okay, and that is just January. Okay, so that's what the blue is. Okay, cool. Let's do just February. Okay, and again, that's pretty easy. Here we'll make this, I like the yellow is really nice. Okay, so the yellow, oh, that's like super thick. And that's just February. And that's going to be, basically 0.38. So we'll write out 0.38 minus, right? That's the whole thing, minus what? The green, right? If I take away the green, I just get the yellow. Okay, so minus the green. Okay, and so that's minus 0.31, which gives you 0.07. Okay, so that is just February. Okay, that's all we need. So let's answer our questions. All right, find the probability of not getting a snow day in either January or February. Well, the probability of getting something is 0.38, so the probability of getting nothing is 1 minus 0.38, which is 0.62. Okay, pretty easy. The probability of getting a snow day in February but not January, remember we already did that one. Okay, that's the one in yellow, and that is 0.07. Already done, baby. Okay, and then the last one here, find the probability of getting a snow day in only one of the 2 months. Okay, so again, there's two ways to do that. In only one of the 2 months, so not both. So it's either the blue or the yellow, and that's why you just add the blue and the yellow together. So it's 0.15 plus 0.07. 0.15 plus 0.07, which is 0.22. Or you could have said, because remember it says find the probability of getting a snow day in only one of the 2 months, I could say 0.38, which is one or both, so 0.38 minus the red. So 0.38 minus 0.16. 0.38 minus 0.16, which is, of course, 0.22. Okay? Not bad. All right, so those are Venn diagrams, which really is pretty easy. Just got to kind of fill in everything and find out what each piece is, then you're good to go. Okay? So this last thing is pretty easy as well. It's called a tree diagram. You've seen these before. I don't know if we could fit this whole thing on here because it's too big to fit on the screen, but you have it in front of you. But basically, a tree diagram is you got probability of passing the test or failing the test, and notice that it's 0.8 and 0.2, so it adds up to 1.0, which makes sense. You either pass or fail it. And then for each of those branches, you have a pass or fail the final. Okay, and again, those add up to 1.0 as well. So it just kind of makes sense. If you pass the test, you're more likely going to pass the final, right? And its likelihood of failing the final is low. But if you fail the test, you have a much higher probability of failing the final as well. Okay? So anyway, let's answer some of these questions, and we'll kind of work our way back as we answer the questions because, again, there's not a lot of room here. It says, what is the probability of passing this test and failing the final? So the key word here, math fans, is and. right? And means multiplication. So the probability of passing this test and failing the final. So what's the probability of passing the test is 0.8. Failing the final is 0.3. So it's multiplication. So it's 0.8 times 0.3. So the answer for that one is 0.24. Okay? So pretty likely, the likelihood of that happening, well, you can pass the test, that's more likely, but failing the final, not very likely, if you're passing the test. Okay, the next question. If you pass the test, what's the probability of passing the final? So, I passed the test, what's the probability of passing the final? Do you guys agree? I already told you I was passing this test. So you don't even need to tell me anything about passing the test. I've already passed that spot, so I really just need to say what's the probability of passing the final, and that's 0.7. Okay, so this is 0.7. That's the answer to that. Now you could have used our conditional probability. So it says if you pass the test, that's given. So look at it this way: probability of passing the final. So pass the final, given that you pass the test. Okay? So if I can figure this out, which you guys should know, that's probability of passing the final. Oops, pass final and pass test. Right? It's the probability of both those occurring divided by this one right here. Probability of the pass the test. So you could do it that way and it would work. So if I go back here, the probability of passing the final and passing the test, let's go back. Passing the final and test is 0.8 times 0.7. So 0.8 times 0.7 divided by the probability of passing the test, which we already said that is 0.8. So the 0.8s cancel out, and we're left with 0.7, which is exactly what we said here. Okay, so I just want to show you what the formula works to, or just picking it off of the tree, it works as well. Okay, but you know that you passed the test, so you kind of pass by that, and you just go right to what's the probability of passing that final exam. Okay. Number 3, what is the probability of failing the final? Well, failing the final means there's 2 ways you can fail the final. Oops. You can either pass the test and fail the final, or you can fail the test and pass the final. So, did I use the word or? My goodness. Okay, so let's do that. The probability of failing the final could be passing the test. So if I just would highlight this, either pass the test and fail the final, or you fail the test and fail the final. So really, it's these two multiplied together, added to these two multiplied together. So 0.8 times 0.3 plus 0.2 times 0.6. So let me write that in here. So it's 0.8 times 0.3 plus, because it's one or the other, 0.2 times 0.6. Okay? And that gives you 0.24 plus 0.12, which is 0.36. Okay, cool. Next question is, what is the probability of passing this test? Let's go back to the diagram here. What is the probability of passing this test? Do you guys agree? It's just 0.8. It's right there. You don't have to do anything with the final. It's just saying it's 0.8. So that's an easy one. 0.8. Number 5, what is the probability of passing both this test and the final, or failing both? So pass both the test and the final. So let me highlight this with a different color here. So it's probability of passing both this test, both this test and the final. So passing both the test and the final. Okay, so this is going to be multiplied together. Or failing both. So failing the test and failing the final. So you're going to multiply these together. Okay? So it's go back up here, it's 0.8 times 0.7 plus 0.2 times 0.6. So let me cursor down here again. Okay, so it's 0.8 times 0.7 plus 0.2 times 0.6. So that gives me 0.56 plus 0.12, which equals 0.68. All right, cool. And the last question is, what do all these probabilities add up to? If I actually went to all the branches, what would they all add up to? They would add up to 1. Okay, they better add up to 1 because you're either going to pass the test and then pass or fail the final, or you're going to fail the test and pass or fail the final. Okay, it's one of those three. In fact, if I would add these up, just multiply, this is 0.56, this is 0.24, so that adds up to 0.80. And then 0.2 times 0.4 is 0.08, and 0.2 times 0.6 is 0.12. So these add up to 0.20. So if you add up 0.20 with 0.80, you get 1.0. Okay? Pretty easy. So put that in there. 1.0. All right, so that's it, math fans. Venn diagrams and tree diagrams. Know this. You'll see it on the homework, obviously. You'll see it on the quiz, on the test. You'll see it on the final exam. Okay, you'll probably see it in life in general, Venn diagrams a lot. All right? Anyway, that's it, math fans. Have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.